So we've mentioned this before when bringing up the Russia report, but I think this is been a sort of consequence of the Russia report being released. It's very, very evident that there needs to be a retroactive investigation into the 2016 referendum. It's obvious to everyone. Even the Russia report made this recommendation that there should be one. The UK government said, no, we don't want to do one. You have a report into the interference of our democratic process, and our government doesn't want to do anything about it. It should 100%, because this is how you make sure the democracy remains strong, good, and committed, and roots out corruption. However, on the other side of things, you've had many Brexiteers, especially people like Aaron Banks, Nigel Farage, try to spin this as some sort of massive wins. And so the pro-Brexit spin machine starts up and says, oh, we did nothing wrong. Actually, the report doesn't say that at all. So today we go to the Byline Times and their report on the Russia report of the pro-Brexit spin operation goes into overdrive. The Russia report has been released finally. After an unprecedented 9-month delay, the report into Russian interference in UK democracy was published this morning, with Parliamentary, the Intelligence and Security Committee announcing yesterday that advanced copies will not be available. Yet, in keeping with the privileged status of the right-wing media in the UK, The Telegraph this morning splashes full details of the report, while pro-government blog Guido Fawkes even managed to release the full document half an hour before the committee actually presented its findings to MPs. Thus, the instigators of Brexit have been given more than enough time to construct their version of events, and, as usual, they've relied on half-truths verging on outright distortion. Byline Time readers won't be surprised to learn the main culprit of this effort to massage the facts. In response to the report, Leave.eu, the group operated by the bad boys of Brexit, Aaron Banks and Andy Wigmore, posted a graphic with the following quote. HMG, Her Majesty's Government, had not seen any evidence to suggest any successful interference in UK democratic processes or any activity that has had a material impact on an election, for example, influencing the results. This, they claim, proves that there was no Russian interference in the 2016 EU referendum. The intelligence report says that kills the Kremlin conspiracy, they cried, seemingly unconcerned that they have willfully misread and misinterpreted the report. In reality, the report highlights credible, open source evidence that Russia used media channels such as RT and Sputnik, along with social media bots and trolls, to influence the referendum. One open source studies have pointed to the preponderance of pro-Brexit or anti-EU stories on RT and Sputnik, and the use of bots and trolls as evidence of Russian attempts to influence the process, the report states. It makes the argument that neither government officials nor the intelligence agencies have had any attempt to actually verify the validity of these available evidence. In this regard, the Leave.eu quote omits the obvious as an important phrase. The report states that HMG had not seen or sought evidence of successful interference in UK democratic processes or any activity that has a material impact on the election. For example, influencing results, meaning that the government hasn't tried to ascertain the scale of Russian interference in 2016, and therefore the committee cannot draw a firm conclusion. The authors of the report instead recommended that a comprehensive study should be carried out by the government and the intelligence agencies to determine the facts. The report goes on to say that we have not been provided with any post-referendum assessment of Russian attempts or interference. This situation is in stark contrast to the US handling of allegations of Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election, where the intelligence community assessment was produced within 2 months of the vote. with an unclassified summary being made public. While these issues at the stake of the EU referendum campaign are less clear-cut, it is nevertheless the committee's view that the UK intelligence community should produce an allegoious assessment of potential Russian interference in the EU referendum, and that an unclassed summary should be published. This stands in stark contrast to the spin pushed out by the Telegraph overnight, which asserted from its early reading, the report concludes there is no direct evidence of Russian interference in the 2016 Brexit referendum. These words set the tempo of the political community this morning on the Russia report release, with many consequently jumping to conclude, without having yet read the report, that it was going to be a damp squib. Perhaps they would have reacted differently had the Telegraph more accurately reported that the community had actually called the committee had actually called for an investigation into the Russian interference on Brexit, as well as a credible evidence to suggest that foreign actors did try to warp public opinion. The second smoke bomb lobbed by the Brexiteers has been the claim made in the report that thousands of British enablers have helped Russia to spread its influence in the UK. Guido Fawkes, Tom Harwood, points out to this section nothing more than Russian oligarchs invested in PR firms, charities, political interest, academia and cultural institutions, which he sarcastically says are famously pro-Brexit institutions. Once again, this is a selective reading of the report that borders on the ridiculous. The next paragraph goes on to state that lawyers, accountants, estate agents, PR professionals have played a role, willingly or unwittingly, in the extension of Russian influence by providing services to rich Russians with ties to Putin. To mirror Hayward's cutting wit, lawyers, accountants, estate agents and PR professionals are of course proletariats unconnected to the Conservative Party in any way. Talking of connections to the Conservatives, the report later goes on to note that several members of Russian elite who are closely linked to Putin are identified as being involved with charitable or political organisations in the UK, having donated to political parties, as well as a public profile that positions them to assist Russian influence operations. The report didn't spell out which political party has received the Russian cash, but an Open Democracy report handily details the 1.3 million raked in by Conservatives from Russian founders since 2010. These flaws aren't mentioned by Hayward, who would of course worked for Vote Leave during the referendum campaign, nor by his ideological counterparts, and we can only wonder why. So, I am for an investigation. An investigation needs to happen. And quite frankly, not doing so damages our democracy going forward, because as is normal, if you let, and we're willing to let, a bit of, corruption slide past, then how willing are you to let the next bit of corruption slide past? And the sluice gate just opens up more and more and more until the flood of corruption just comes through. And that's where we are. The sluice gate is not fully open, but it's open. Corruption is coming through, and we need that report, that intelligence committee, our intelligence community as well, and the committee to open up an investigation on what was happening, what was going on. We need to know, and we should know. And not only that, this has also led to other things that need to be passed in our parliament. There needs to be a foreign lobbying act. There needs to be something like the Magnitsky Act passed. In fact, the Magnitsky Act just needs to be passed in this country, full stop. That will put a massive stop to certainly Russian money flowing into this country, which I can only proceed would be a very, very good thing. So that's where we are. Again, honestly, the Russia report's out there, and its findings are very clear and very simple. There needs to be an investigation. And as long as there isn't, we have to ask that question, why isn't there an investigation being carried out? And we can only look for the fact Boris Johnson in charge, And that might point to some very uncomfortable truths about the Conservatives getting, well, a lot of Russian cash. And then those other questions might have to be answered. For this cash that you received, what were you getting? What were you giving anything in return?